A Mighty Wind, The Annals of History, by Lord Blackwater. Chapter 11. Daddy, you're a little bitch. They awoke the next morning to go to hell. Barnaby and Nara couldn't help but sneak smiles at each other, knowing what had happened the night before. Barnaby also couldn't help himself from studying Trinity more. He wanted to know his daughter and everything that he had missed in the last 4 years. While he studied her, the depressed imps busied themselves with preparations before the summoning. They cleared a small area in front of the tree of Beelzebub, and then rolled out a rounded stone slab. It appeared to be big enough for a person to lay down on.
But how exactly do we summon this Dullahan?
Nora asked the imps.
A sacrifice, of course,
Imp 2 explained.
So which of you imps are we gonna kill then?
Keldorf asked suspiciously. The imps looked at each other and smirked.
Not a sacrifice of life,
the imps proclaimed,
but a sacrifice of dignity is what Dullahan requires. And it's best if the sacrifice comes from the leader of the group.
Everyone turned to look at Barnaby.
So, what do I need to do?
He asked nervously. The imps began by shaving Barnaby from the neck down.
Less flammable,
they told Barnaby, which worried him. The shaving wasn't terrible, with the exception of when they made their way to Stephen. They said the penis required a ceremonial blade, the blade of Papillette. Unfortunately for Stephen, this ceremonial blade hadn't been properly cared for. Each pass of the blade on his shaft was like a cheese grater going over warm brie. Poor Stephen didn't have much of a rind left after his haircut. Next they had Barnaby stripped down to nothing and forced him to put on a leather bondage suit. He then had to crawl up onto the altar on all fours. They strapped a ball into his mouth and tied it around his head. Imp 3 grabbed a small branch from the tree of Beelzebub.
Now squeal like a pig for us,
the imps demanded. Barnaby looked round and mumbled,
"Harr,"
not knowing exactly what to do.
"Squeal like a pig, you bitch,"
the imps demanded with even less patience now. They spanked his ass on the tree branch.
"Shoo-wee!"
cried Barnaby in an attempt to please the imps.
"Louder!"
they demanded.
"Shoo-wee!"
Barnaby screamed until he thought he'd squirt his butthole inside out with all the force he was putting into his squeals.
"Again!"
they screamed, foaming at the mouths.
"Shoo-wee!"
Suddenly, the earth beneath the tree began to quiver. Keldorf had noticed it first, but the small knot of the tree began to expand and open up. Bigger and bigger it became until a figure began to emerge from within its shadows. The being was large, perhaps double the size of Barnaby. The creature wore a suit of armor made out of bones. In one hand it carried a large mace, still dripping with blood, and in the other it appeared to be carrying its own head.
"What pansy bitch summons the great Dullahan?"
Dullahan asked in a deep and gruff voice. The imps removed Barnaby's choker.
"It was I, Dullahan,"
Barnaby stated with confidence. Looking annoyed, Dullahan grabbed the tree branch from the imps and slapped Barnaby across the ass.
"That's Master Dullahan to you, my little bitch!"
"Yes, Master Dullahan,"
Barnaby cried.
"What is it you seek then, little bitch?"
he replied, giving Barnaby another whack to the ass. Barnaby moaned.
"Oh, we seek an audience with Dell, Master Dullahan. We seek to learn more about the mighty queef so that we might—"
Whack! "Shut up, little bitch, before I gag you again. You talk too much. So, you seek Dell. And what makes you think you've sacrificed enough of your dignity yet?"
Dullahan asked with burning eyes. He whacked Barnaby yet again. At this point, Barnaby was starting to develop ass wounds. Nara rubbed margarine on them in hopes that it would ease the pain. Luckily for Barnaby, the whipping had left his ass warm, so the margarine was able to seek into every crack and crevasse of the wounds.
"You're strong, Barnaby,"
Nara whispered to him as he took another blow. With each whip, the healing margarine, mixed with Barnaby's ass blood, would splash across the faces of his companions. Faces dripping, the three imps looked at one another. Without saying a word, they each conveyed the same thought to each other. We have seen true pain now. Barnaby looked at Nara and Trinity as their faces took another splash of ass-blood margarine. How would he ever be able to salvage any chance he had at a relationship with either of them if they watched all this? Barnaby sighed. He had to do it. Cumbria was depending on him yet again.
"Because I'm a little bitch, Master Dullahan."
Another whack ground his ass.
"And I deserve to be punished. If only my butthole weren't so tiny, I wouldn't be as much of a little bitch, Master Dullahan."
Barnaby whimpered as another branch hit his ass.
Good. Now your daughter, lover, and roommate all know the truth. You have no dignity left. Please enter hell.
With that, Dullahan faded away, leaving the opening in the tree waiting for the four of them.